got to genuinely respect and care for your team. And I love the saying that says, I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. So I think first and foremost, you've got to have a genuine interest in the people that you work with, and you've got to have a connection. And if you can do that successfully, then you'll have a great relationship with people in your team and you'll get that longevity.
You're listening to the Fitness Business Podcast. We'd like to thank today's podcast partner, Active Management. Go to www.fitnessbusinesspodcast.com/active to access one of 4 Active Management VIP resources. Welcome along to a special In the Trenches edition of the Fitness Business Podcast. Today's guest is Kristen Green, Executive General Manager of the multi-award-winning business Aquafit Fitness and Leisure. Kristen is a board member of Fitness Australia, and she was also recently appointed to the board of the Women in Fitness Association. In 2004, Kristen was engaged to start the Aquafit business. In the role, she has positioned Aquafit as a valuable community asset, especially for older adults. And the facility is often cited as an example of best practice for a fitness business in Australia and is the most consistently awarded fitness centre in Australia. Kristen's in a really unique position in that she's been with the business for 14 years, during which time, by the way, she also completed her MBA with distinction. I invited Kristen on the show to tell us about her role and what's kept her there for so long. We talk about her commitment to ongoing professional development, and given her tenure, I asked her to share some tips on keeping team members engaged in their role in the short and the long term. Right after the main interview, I'm joined by Stephen Tharrett, the co-founder and principal of Club Intel. He's coming on to tell us all about the 2017 International Fitness Industry Trend Study. It is a study that I really encourage everyone to take part in. Now, there's one last thing. Make sure you listen out to hear this week's PRECOR Quickfire 5. I'm not going to give you any clues as to who the guest is. You're going to have to listen right to the very end. But all I'm going to say is, trust me, you will not be disappointed. Now let's transition to my interview with today's special guest, Kristen Green. Kristen, welcome along and thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Chantal. It's a pleasure to be here.
It is very nice and quite unusual these days to have a fellow Aussie on the show. In fact, we're only not even that far away from each other physically as we're recording this, which is quite different for me. To get things started today, as I mentioned before, you have a lot on your plate. So I thought we'd start off with our normal question of, any apps, systems or rituals that you particularly use to stay focused, to stay on top of things and not get overwhelmed.
Yeah, look, it's a challenge. I guess it's always the saying that, if you want to get a job done, then you give something to a busy woman. I guess one of the keys is really just to keep yourself fairly organised. And, particularly while I was working full time, but also studying full time, because it was really one night a week or a weekend as well. So it was quite a decent workload. So in terms of systems, I guess you've really got to keep yourself pretty well organised in terms of time management. And look, I don't have a particular app around that. I'm pretty old school like that. I just work on a to-do list. I really just make sure that I carve out particularly, groups of time so that I can make sure that that's what I'm committed to and be really disciplined around sort of committing to that's my time to study. That's what I do. In terms of being organised, one of the things that I also really need to do is just to carve out time for getting ready for the work week in terms of allowing Sunday time to really do meal prep and just set myself up for success that week so that I really kind of keep an eye on what I've got to achieve that week. I guess number 2 for me would probably be around just self-care and exercise and nutrition. So for me, the mornings are the time when I need to exercise, because when you get caught up in a busy day, then the last thing that I really feel like doing is exercising for me at the end of the day. So to start my day, off with some great nutrition, making sure that I'm looking after myself in terms of self-care. I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune thyroid disorder sort of some years ago. So it's really important for me when you're coping with extra stress, study and work and all these other things that life throws at you, that you really do take care of what you're eating and making sure that you're exercising around around that as well. And probably if I did use an app, the one app that I do use is the Headspace app. And I find just committing to that for 10 minutes in the morning, just in terms of meditating, when I get the opportunity. Of course, I don't really get to do it every day, but, most of the times if I just create some space in my schedule just to do 10 minutes of meditation, again, to sort of just prepare myself for the day and to set myself up, take that time out. I think that that's a really great app that's really convenient, and it just kind of gives me that opportunity to take time out before the busyness of the day really starts.
It's interesting, Kristen, because Headspace is fast becoming one of the most mentioned apps on the show.
Really?
And, yeah, which is really interesting. And I think that a lot of people are starting to appreciate the benefits of some form of meditation or some form of time out or escape to set up their day. So Headspace is a really great example of an app that you can use to do that. So thank you for sharing those with us. Now, we alluded to it earlier on when we were having a chat, and you have a very unique employment history for this day and age anyway, because you've been with the one business for 14 years. Am I right? 14?
Absolutely. Yeah, wow. That's true.
What is it that's kept you there so long?
Look, I suppose to look at that, you've kind of got to go back in and look at where I was and where I've come from. On the surface, it kind of, it is. It's unusual to have such longevity in a business, particularly as a senior management role for a long time. But I guess really I was really lucky because I had this really unique opportunity literally nearly 14 years ago to build a fitness business from scratch, which is in southwest Sydney. So I was lucky in the sense that I really had this, I suppose I was entrusted, because the club approached me really as they had no experience and very little industry knowledge. So I was really charged and trusted with creating this new business. So I had the opportunity from scratch to, create systems, recruit, and set up this 43,000 square foot multipurpose facility. So the craziness was that was all within the space of a 3-month period. But, those crazy heady days back there is that we really achieved some sensational milestones in that time. We were a profitable centre within 6 months, and we had a pre-sales period which was so successful. We had over 2,400 members before we opened the door within a 3-month period. So resounding success in the very, very early days. And obviously we've gone on since then to sort of have some significant milestones and awards, probably to the point that we're one of the most awarded fitness centres in Australia. And I suppose where I'm going with that is that I've really been fortunate to have great ownership in the business. And it's probably a little bit unique. It's more around my personality, but I kind of, in essence, feel like I'm really managing my own business, I suppose, without all the financial headaches to that degree. But, it really helps me as a great qualifier for decision making. I can own my decisions, the responsibilities. I have a great ability to influence strategy and the growth of the facility. And I've been probably afforded a lot of autonomy really to do that. So it's really allowed me, I suppose, to build this business, which is deeply entrenched in our community, and be able to really develop some innovative programs for our members. And in doing that, I suppose, is what I've really done when you look at it in hindsight, is that I've been able to establish a culture. And being able to sort of be there for such a long time, I've been able to kind of get that continuity of the business culture, through the employees, through my team here and through our members. And I've been able to kind of continue that over 14 years, which has really meant that the business has had great success. But I also kind of feel that in terms of culture is one of the most critical factors in terms of being able to, drive where a business goes through the process of storytelling and passing down traditions, which I've sort of experienced firsthand over that time. So for me, I'm passionate about culture, and really, I suppose, for the leader, as being the leader of that business, it's really given me that uninterrupted opportunity to do that and kind of inherently pass down to our team here the way that we do things in terms of culture. But I think one of the main things is really just around the fact that my longevity in the role really kind of aligns with my own personal values. And those values also align with what our business values are, which is around community, respect, compassion and integrity. So I think to have such longevity with any organisation, you really need to have that alignment, because if I felt that what my employer was doing was totally different and out of alignment with my personal values, then I'm sure that I wouldn't be there for such a long time.
Given Kristen's experience with longevity in her role and knowing that often these days many people don't stay with their employer for a particularly long time, I asked what advice she would give to fitness owners to keep their team members in the business for longer.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, like I said, it's got to be around cultural fit, and you have to work for an employer, no matter who that is, that you actually have that same alignment with cultural fit and values, because otherwise, as I said, that is really not going to be congruent in terms of your, longevity and your passion for what you need to do every day. I think we're faced, obviously, with the industry at the moment, there's lots of churn, and I think when I look at it, the reason behind that is that why we're a little bit different is that there's really such a divergence of different business models which we've seen over the last 5 to 10 years. And obviously it has a big influence and impact the direction and career paths of newer people into the industry. And, whether that's a 24 model, our HVLC models, what a lot of these models do and these businesses do is that they don't necessarily have the same model. I mean, we work from an employee model. A lot of them are obviously, contract models. And, whilst there's pros and cons for both of those models and no one size fits all, I think what we've done, what really works for us in terms of providing people with a career path, it kind of assists us in terms of getting higher levels of, quality service and providing our employees with a greater sense of buy-in, I think, to our mission and purpose. And I think part of that is really around sort of managing expectations, so that, obviously when we've got recent graduates into the industry, a lot of them choose to go down the role now. I think are probably encouraged to be self-employed or to set up their own physical premises, which is a different scenario and quite a challenging kind of road to travel as opposed to being an employee as well. So, whilst that's a great thing and the industry does need that as well, I think without good mentorship and leadership for these people as well, we run the very real risk that we kind of lose them to the industry and lose them altogether and, set themselves up for failure. So for what works for us is really supporting the team of people that we have and encouraging and growing with their self-development and providing that career path. For others, it's a different road that they travel, and again, neither right nor wrong. It's just a different road. But certainly, making sure that to be successful, that there is, people that are available to help them to lead and to provide mentorship, particularly around some of those, those skills such as, business management and things which aren't necessarily provided to a great deal for trainers as well.
Kristen, you're personally a great advocate for professional development. You touched on it there and we spoke about it in your bio earlier, and you've, of course, completed your MBA. So I wanted to get your perspective on what was it like, first of all, to complete that, and how have you been able to apply that knowledge in leading your business?
Yeah, look, I mean, I graduated last year in July, and it was an amazing accomplishment. It was seriously, hands down, probably one of the most challenging but personally rewarding sort of achievements, I guess, I've ever undertaken. So to give you a little bit of an idea, for me, it took me about 5 years to complete. So that was 12 subjects over that time, which, as I mentioned earlier, I was actually doing evenings or on weekends outside of my full-time job. And it's a huge commitment to do, to kind of do that. It's one thing to start, but the challenge is really just to kind of keep motivated. And
over
as
5 years.
Yeah. And, and don't worry, it certainly tested my motivation at times. And, I had to dig deep to really kind of think, why am I doing this? Is this for me? Is it all worth it? Those kind of things. But, for me, it really just gave me, I've obviously been, managing people and businesses for, over 20 years. But what this kind of did was fill in a lot of the theoretical gaps and also give me a lot of more contemporary understanding of some of the issues in business. And, you cover things like finance and economics and marketing and, governance and things like that. So it certainly helped to fill in the gaps. There's a lot of relevance, and I think even from the time you start studying is that there's always relevance. It's kind of, to me, not a sense of like once I've finished my MBA, it's like my world's going to change. It's just a continual process of really taking away insights that you learn along the way and being able to sort of apply that. I think what it really did is really give me a more strategic understanding of business, and certainly kind of allowed me to think more critically about the business and the environment that you operate in, really.
In addition to Kristen completing her MBA, she also regularly attends industry events, including URSA, PHILEX, and the URSA Institute. She is clearly passionate about professional development, so I asked her how she evaluates the return on time and financial investment for each course or conference that she attends.
It really depends. You've got to kind of, be analytical and think, what do I get out of that? We're very fortunate in Australia to have easy access to PHILEX. And, if I look at it from our team perspective, we would encourage as many of our team to actually go along because it's close. It's relevant, and we get some world-class speakers there as well. In terms of measured outcome for us, there's a great opportunity to do team building, to go along and just go to the trade show and have lunch together, to come together as a team, which you don't really get a chance to do, as well as kind of give these guys some insights into, the latest trends within the industry as well. So there's certainly opportunities for that. And whenever you go to whatever education conference or opportunity that you attend, I think it's really important that you have a clear strategy of how you're going to implement some of those learnings, like back at your club or with your team, and make sure that you can see, because, all too often, and I'm guilty as well, we go along and we feel inspired and we take great notes, and then, we close the book and we get on with business as usual when we get back to work. So you've really kind of got to have a conscious intent to really, make some notes. What I find is when I attend these events, I'll probably come up with, maybe 10 or 15 points, which I'll jot down either on the plane on the way back or when I've got some quiet time, and just simple things that you can take away that you can actually implement. So have an action plan that you can do that. And I think if you can perceive that there's going to be value in terms of implementing some of those things, then, it's a good investment and it's worthwhile attending.
As you know, Kristen, we're celebrating our Women in Fitness Month right now, and you have consistently led your business for over a decade now. So do you want to share with us any advice that you can give to our female listeners on how to keep pursuing their goals?
Absolutely. I think the idea of women in fitness is just an area that I'm so passionate about, and one of the things that I think we do really, really well as women is network. And if I could say one thing, it's really just build your networks and really leverage the opportunity that you have to connect at different industry events. In Australia, we've got PHILEX. We have the Women of Influence Lunch, which is conducted as part of that event, which is terrific. And also we've got the Women's Leadership Summit, which is Deborah Sienna facilitates that, which is another great thing. So kind of use those opportunities to really connect and go out of your way to introduce yourself to other women and really build on that. And really, I suppose one thing which I would say is great advice is really just don't be afraid to reach out to other women in the industry who, you might look up to, you might admire, they might have achieved similar success. And, chances are the same is that they've experienced the same or similar challenges that you're going through, or that, and they'll be more than willing, in my experience, to really share their experiences and, reach out and sort of discuss those and really try and find someone or a group of people. It's not necessarily one. It's possible to have, multiple mentors or people that you kind of really have the opportunity to chat with some of those challenges about. And really, I think it works both ways. What I really work hard to do is to be a good female role model for, up and coming female leaders. I think it's really important to have that support. And I really feel strongly that we have an obligation almost to grow the future female leaders of tomorrow and, use our own experience to kind of mentor up and come in female leaders as well. And, one of those opportunities, as Chantal, as you're an executive member, is through the new WIFA, Women in Fitness Association. So join associations and kind of connect with women and, find some like-minded women who have been through similar challenges and be the conduit sort of upwards and downwards in terms of facilitating up and coming leaders, but also, pick the brain of other more experienced people as well in the industry.
Yeah, we have been lucky enough this month to have the founder of WIFA appear on the show, Lindsay Rainwater, in an amazing interview, and she shared some of her experience with us. And, of course, we've also got Kerry Keppel from one of the founding members of WIFA as well. So, so it's definitely an association that I have had, immense pleasure being involved in myself as well. And it's something that I do recommend to the women out there to become involved because it's a growing association. It's only relatively new, but already the camaraderie amongst the women that are involved and the information sharing and the mentor opportunities, I think, are really, really strong. So I'm excited about the future of where the Women in Fitness Association is going as well. So great recommendation. Now, Kristen, if people want to contact you or find out more about, your longevity in the career and the success that you've had with the business, what should they do to contact you?
Sure. Look, I'm on LinkedIn, so you can contact me on LinkedIn, or I'm also on Facebook and available on Twitter as well. So, yeah, feel free, and I'm sure that information will be available. So I'm more than happy for people to reach out, and I'd love to connect with others in the industry as well.
Excellent. And, of course, we will put all of those links in today's show notes. Now, let's finish off today's interview with your Fitbispiration, and can you share your top 3 tips to have team members stay engaged in their role daily, weekly, monthly, and year after year? Usually at this point we take a quick ad break, but given today our focus is on digging into the nitty-gritty detail and getting in the trenches with fitness owners, I thought we wouldn't let today's podcast partner get away quite so easily. So I've invited JT from Active Management onto the show to ask him a few questions. JT, thank you for being our podcast partner for In the Trenches. Tell me, what made you decide to support this series?
All the guests you have on the show are totally awesome, Chantal. They share so many great ideas, takeaways and insights. But for us, the In the Trenches segments are real-life owners and managers sharing really cool stuff that they've done where they've turned the guest theory into practical actions. And that's the most rewarding part of running a business coaching program like Active Management does, where we hear about the actions and results of our clients. It gives us a warm fuzzy inside. So that's why we're supporting the In the Trenches, because it's the actions that people are doing. Okay, so talking about actions, I know that you listen to a lot of podcasts, not just this one. So talk us through what your tips are when it comes to implementing ideas from the podcast that you listen to. Well, I guess you could even use these steps for when you read a book or when you attend a conference, but let's imagine it's just the podcast at this point. So the first thing I do is I obviously listen to the podcast, and I'll take notes using the Notes app on my phone. If I'm listening to it while I'm on a treadmill or working out or something like that, then I obviously have to go back and listen a second time. The second step is that I then go to the show notes, and because I've recorded the links from the initial listening, I then just can go straight to the show notes and look at what links there are there, click on them, check out what I need to. And if the show is really relevant to what I'm doing or where I'm at in my business, I'll look for the transcript and I'll transcribe the transcript. Done for you. It's already done. I'll just download the transcript. Then once I've got all of that, I've got all my knowledge, I then really try to identify the top 2, maybe 3 ideas that I want to take from the show with what I want to do with. I kind of listen to it and I go, okay, I want to do something with that knowledge. And so I then brain dump a whole bunch of macro ideas, put a timeline down and identify who's responsible for that. And so sometimes it's then just going, okay, now I need to micro it down from that big idea. So that's probably it. Okay, thank you very much for sharing those tips. I think you're right. I think regardless of where the original educational content comes from, that sort of flow or that process that you just talked us through is something that we can utilise to action ideas. So thank you for that. Can I just say, you can. What's really important for me is the title of the podcast. Mm-hmm. Because if I look at the title of the podcast or the title of the book, it helps me then go in with an agenda of what I'm trying to learn. Yep. So if I'm going in with an open agenda, then I'll often walk away with 5, 6, 7 ideas. But if I'm going and going, oh, this one's about Facebook ads, I'm going and going, okay, I want to know how to retarget. So I'm listening for that retargeting. So I've kind of got an agenda around what I'm listening for. Do you find that when you go into the show notes, the fact that you can actually see like time-stamped where the show is at, the timeline, is that beneficial? 100%, especially when I'm going back a second time. Mm-hmm. So the first time I listen to it all the way through, but if I need to go back the second time and hear what the person said, that timestamp's just critical. Yeah, good. Glad to hear it. So I wanted to get you on not only to talk about the show, but to talk about Active Management, because the other day I was sitting at my computer and I got this email came through and it was from Active Management membership, and the page was full of social media tiles on why people should do personal training. It was absolute
gold. So I thought maybe you can talk us through and let everyone know how active management can actually help the FBP family when it comes to their business in the trenches.
Yeah, sure. So we've got a community of fitness business owners, managers and team members who receive and share really practical compliment. They complement each other.
That too.
But they're really practical content to implement in their business.
Mm-hmm.
So we at Active Management, we listen to what people in the industry want to help make their lives easier as owners, managers, or people trying to develop a career. And then from that, we then develop our content and we provide it. So we try to be a one-stop shop in relation to content. So, for example, we've got some marketing templates that people can use. You saw the personal training social media memes, but we actually have over 400 of these now, which basically members can just plonk their logo straight on and then they can use them on Instagram and Facebook. We also do a monthly Q&A where our community can ask me questions and I answer them on a Facebook Live. And this is exclusive to our members. So in other words, our members get an hour of Q&A with me every single month.
So just go back a little bit because you said in there marketing templates. Tell us a little bit more about that. If I'm a club owner, what do I get access to exactly?
Okay, so with the marketing templates, you go onto the Member Hub and we have reactivation programs. We've got birthday cards, we've got thank you cards, we've got outreach cards, we've got just general sort of flyers, and the artwork's already done. All the member of Active Management has to do is just go in, put in their logo, put in their club details, and put in their offer and send it off to the printer.
Hey, presto, all done for you.
So we try really hard to get one of those out every month.
Nice. That's awesome. Okay, so how can the FBP family be a part of the Active Management community?
Okay, so you just got to go to www.activemgmt.com.au/membership options. You can get started for as low as $50 a year, and that's our bronze membership. So that's www.activemgmt.com.au/membership options.
Well, JT, thank you very much for dropping by today, joining us in the trenches and telling us all about the Active Management membership. And just a quick reminder to everyone, just head over to www.activemgmt.com.au/membership options and you can join the Active Management community right now. Thanks, JT.
Thank you.
Let's go back to Kristen now with her tips on how to keep team members engaged in your business for longer.
I think first and foremost, you've got to genuinely respect and care for your team. And I love the saying that says, I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. So I think first and foremost, you've got to have a genuine interest in the people that you work with, and you've got to have a connection. And if you can do that successfully, then you'll have a great relationship with people in your team and you'll get that longevity. Secondly, I think it's really important to manage and recognise and reward in line with your organisational values. So catch somebody doing something good. Don't always be out there sort of, berating them for something that they've done or that should have done, differently. Try and find an opportunity every day to say congratulations or thank you to one of your team and recognise that in terms of how it aligns with your values. And then I think thirdly, empower your team members to make decisions. So your frontline team, give them the opportunity and discretion to be able to make decisions and trust that they'll use their judgment to make decisions wisely.
Kristen, that saying that you mentioned right at the beginning, that's one of my all-time favourite quotes.
Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, I'll remember that always. So, look, Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you again, Chantal. The pleasure is all mine.
Get ready for this week's bonus segment, your extra injection of information, education, and inspiration to strengthen your fitness business.
In today's bonus segment, I'm joined by Stephen Tharrett, the co-founder and principal of Club Intel.
Stephen, welcome along and thank you so much for joining us on the Fitness Business Podcast.
Well, thank you very much. It's quite an honor, and I appreciate being given the opportunity.
Tell us all about the 2017 International Fitness Industry Trend Survey. What's all the rage?
This is the third year that we've done this. we set on this journey 3 years ago because there was no study done in the industry that really brought forward hard data about what percentage of businesses were adopting certain types of equipment or programs or technology. And so everybody was making predictions on opinion. We want to take opinion out of it and put real facts in place. So starting in 2015, then again in 16, and again this year, we've done the study, and this will give us 4 years of hard data on over 90 different, quote, trends or practices in the industry, from types of equipment people use, types of facilities that are out there, the types of programming that they're using, and how they're using technology. So we're able to say that 50% use this or 70%, or this has grown by 300%. So it gives us real hard data. And we partner up with organizations such as Active Management, Europe Active, and URSA, and others, so we get a global reach. We know not just what's happening in the U.S., but hey, what's happening in Australia or New Zealand? What's happening in England or Russia or Turkey or in Asia or in Brazil and Argentina? And it gives us a global perspective on really what is all the rage. What are people adopting? What's growing? What's shrinking? And that helps operators plan for the new year.
Stephen, tell me, who in the industry should be taking part in the survey?
Well, we obviously would like the owners and managers, whether general managers, assistant managers for clubs or large companies, to participate. But we also want fitness trainers, whether they're group X instructors, they're personal trainers. Anybody who's in our industry can participate. We segment the data by ownership, by managers, by CEOs, and by frontline staff, and by type of club. So anybody and everybody who is a professional in our industry should take the opportunity to participate. The more data we have, the more accurate and statistically valid it'll be.
Okay, so what date does the survey need to be completed by?
We have set October 18th as the final day that the survey will be open. So it's supposed to be launched this coming Monday, the 25th. I know in a few countries it's already launched. So it gives everybody a good 3 weeks to complete, and only it'll take 5 to 8 minutes to actually complete the survey.
Okay, excellent. So I can also say by the time this goes live, everyone that's listening right now, you can jump online and do the survey, because this show we're pre-recording at the moment. This show will go live in late September. So use this as your cue to jump online and fill in the survey before October the 18th. Now, Stephen, really importantly, tell us about the results. Whereabouts are they published?
Well, we will produce an executive summary of the 2 pages that we will send out to everybody whose email address we have. But more importantly, we'll print the entire report and we'll post it on our website, which is www.clubintel.com. And there's a hyphen between Club and Intel. Well, we leave it on there. We have a section called White Papers and Reports, and the report will be posted there sometime in December. People can download it for free. So this is not like a lot of other industry reports where you got to pay for it. It's free. And because we want to educate and inform the industry, what better way to do than make it available for free? So it'll be available on our website. I know that we'll provide copies to each of our partners. So your followers can obviously go to Active Management and get the free report. Those who are members of Europe Active could go there and get it. So they don't have to come to us if they don't want to. They can go to any of our partner organizations who will also be able to provide it for them for free.
Stephen, this is fantastic. And I have to say, I think that having a study like this, the information from a study like this, is so valuable to all of us within the industry. So I really encourage everyone to please take part in this, have your say, give your information to share so that we can all learn from the results of this study. So, Stephen, for further information, do they need to go to the website club-intel.com? Is that correct?
Yes, it's club-intel.com, or they can reach out to me directly at steve.t@club-intel.com. Either way.
Excellent. Is there any further information you want to leave us with today, Stephen?
No, I would just add to what you said. I'd encourage everybody to participate. Lots of times we don't get, not only us, but other associations don't get enough participation from the industry. And the more that people participate, the more hard data we have, the more information available to them to make the decisions they need to be successful in their business or career.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us today and telling us all about the 2017 International Fitness Industry Trend Study. Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you, Chantal.
PRECOR Quickfire 5.
For most people, this week's guest needs no introduction. But in case you are brand new to the industry, let me tell you all about Rick Caro. Rick has been in the health club industry for 44 years as a club owner, operator, chairman of the 10th largest US club company, and as a consultant of over 3,000 assignments. Rick runs 2 major industry events, sits on boards and advisory boards of several companies serving the club industry. He wrote the financial management textbook for the industry and has received every award, including being the only recipient of the Lifetime Achievement Award. He's known for his market analysis, club valuations, expert witness testimony, and especially for his knowledge of club finances. Here is Rick Caro for the PRECOR Quickfire 5.
Let me start by saying what an absolute honour and privilege it is to have you join us on the show, Rick.
Well, thank you.
Now, before we even start today, I have 2 people to thank for making this interview happen. The first person is Emmett Williams, the president of MYZANE, who sent me a little message a couple of months ago and said, you have got to get Rick on the show. So I want to say thank you, Emmett, first of all, for suggesting getting Rick on. And second of all, of course, JT from Active Management, who introduced us, as you mentioned earlier, at URSA and then over email to make this interview happen. So shout out to both of those people for making this happen. Now, Rick, we start each of our shows with the PRECOR Quickfire 5 questions. And the first question is, why do you do what you do?
It's a great question, especially when someone's been kind of doing some of the same things over and over. To go back and ask the why question is kind of stimulating. But I think the answer is, and I've said this many times to people because I've been in the industry a long time, I love this industry. And I've kind of grown up with it and in it. And I love what I do in it because I get a chance to help others. And that's a major motivator. So I feel very lucky to have found something where it's something I love, something I get reinforced in, and something where people still feel that I can be helpful. So it's a win-win for everyone.
And Rick, tell us, what's the best piece of advice that you have ever received?
I'm thinking of that now, and I guess the first thing I'd say is find passion in life, make a choice, follow the dream, and then really pursue it fully. And I think I've had a chance to find something that I'm totally passionate about and feel very lucky.
That's incredible advice. And what's a personal habit that helps you become better at what you do?
Well, I'm considered to be a very organized person, so I like to organize my day and week in advance as best I can. And everyone has different techniques for doing that. I make lists and frame out every day. And because I do a lot of consulting, I may work on 7 or 8 different kind of projects each day. So in order to do that, I need to kind of have an idea of what I'm going to try to do that day, even if it doesn't work out that way. So I'm one of those who tries to really spend time organizing before my day starts and sometimes before my week starts in order to be able to be effective.
And tell us, what's one book that you would recommend and why?
Well, there are a lot of books that I think can be helpful to people in this industry. But one that I always refer back to is the one called Differentiate or Die by a guy named Jack Trout, who was a speaker at URSA years ago. But he really focuses on the fact that many of us are Me Too companies, that there isn't very much positioning and differentiation amongst what we do versus what others do in the industry. And we need to be much more dedicated in our focusing. So his favorite line is, you need to be one of one in a category. And if you can't do that, then you need to reflect about how to go about that and then commit yourself to really being truly differentiated.
Well, thank you for that book recommendation, Rick. And tell us, why should our listeners come back and listen to the amazing show that we're going to hear from you next week?
Well, I think part of what I think you and I will talk about today is really the whole process and what it takes to sell a club, what is involved in that process, and what are some of the key insights into succeeding and going that direction. And so those who have any interest, not just today, but in the future, and want to have an idea of how they might exit or how they might want to buy a club, because many of the processes are the same for whether you're buying or selling, or buy out a partner to get more control of a club. All of those things, I think, will be addressed one way or another during our discussion today.
Well, Rick, I feel so privileged to have you on the show, and I know that our listeners are going to get so much out of our interview together next week. So thank you very much for joining us today for the PRECOR Quickfire 5.
Thank you.
I am sure that I don't need to tell you that you're in for an amazing treat next week. It was such a privilege interviewing Rick. His knowledge about the fitness industry and financial management is second to none. So if you haven't already subscribed to the show notes, then I encourage you to head over to fitnessbusinesspodcast.com right now and subscribe to those show notes. So that means you will not miss a show. Now, speaking of next week, we are officially kicking off Podtober 2017. Now, if you're a new listener to the show, let me tell you what I am talking about. Podtober is all about raising awareness of podcasts as an easy-to-consume, free resource that fitness professionals can access anytime, anywhere. Personally, I like to think of this show like a bit of a university on wheels. Now, you may not know this, but we actually launched the Fitness Business Podcast in June of 2015, and I am incredibly proud of what we've achieved. We are the #1 podcast on the planet for fitness business owners and managers, and to date, we've featured 129 experts from across the world. The team here on the show have a goal to get every fitness business owner or manager on the planet to hear the information that our guests share. And for that reason, we have renamed October to Podtober. And it's really about an effort to raise the awareness of podcasts as a great free resource for professional development. Now, during Podtober 2017, we have an amazing lineup of guests, including Rick Caro, who you just heard. We've got the new chairman of URSA, Derek Gallup, coming on. We've got the 2017 Idea Fitness Instructor of the Year, Jessica Matthews, and the CEO of Barry's Bootcamp USA, Joey Gonzalez. Now, for all of you who want to help us spread the podcast love, then what I would love you to do is share your favorite 3 shows with your colleagues, your manager, your teammates, anyone at all. To do that, you just need to go to fitnessbusinesspodcast.com and search for the show on the homepage by the guest name. So if you want to share, say, the Jay Bear Show, then you just type his name into that search bar. Then when you get to the page, hit the share symbol to the right of the show name, and you can share it on Facebook, Twitter, Google, anywhere you like. So thank you so much in advance for being part of the FBP family, and thank you for helping us celebrate Podtober. Before we finish off today, a quick reminder that all of the resources, links, and transcripts for today's show can be found at fitnessbusinesspodcast.com. Thank you so much to all of our partners for their support and to our foundation partner, Active Management. And just a reminder, head over to fitnessbusinesspodcast.com/active for your free business development ebook. That is everything for this week. I will see you next week. And remember, what you leave behind is not what's engraved in stone monuments, but what is woven into the lives of others.